intro video for a very special tract at the Panther Hollow project. The 20 acres with the home and the buildings, the original farmhouse. Panther Hollow originally was 800 or 1,000 acres. Large, beautiful family farm, mixture of meadow and timber and Bryant Creek flowing through it and all that good stuff. And at some point, the owners just decided to do other things. And so some of it was sold in larger tracts, some in smaller tracts, and then the Panther Hollow project is combined of 20 or 30 private tracts, anywhere from 8 to about 20 acres in size, I believe. So not only is this one of the bigger tracts, but this is the tract that has the actual, essentially has the working farm, or was the working farm. It's got the farmhouse, it's got the shop, the machine shed, ponds, all that stuff is right there on this property. It's really cool. We're going to zoom in and check it out. But this particular video is more about the land itself, how that lays, and we will zoom in and look at that in a moment here. But just quickly before we do, wanted to show you how to get to the property. We did a much longer video on this, and if it's not on this listing page, then it'll be on the main page for the Panther Hollow project, where we show you the north route and the south route. If you don't see it on there, just get a hold of us and we'll send you the link for that. But we do have one where we kind of go into detail on the two routes that we use to get to Panther Hollow. But just super quickly, we've got Seymour, Missouri to the west. We've got Mansfield, Missouri to the east. This is Highway 60, main east-west road in southern Missouri. From Seymour, if you go west for about 45 minutes, you're at Springfield. You're in Springfield. So Springfield is the largest city in southern Missouri by far. It's got everything we need, for sure, everything most people need. Colleges, hospitals, it's got a good airport. Springfield's great. So that's just a short trip from the property. But to get here from Springfield, you'd go east on 60 to Seymour, go about another 5 miles or so. And if you're taking the north route, you would go south on Highway O, which then turns to gravel after about a mile. Follow that down through kind of through a little part of the Cedar Gap Conservation Area. Down here somewhere, you're going to cross Bryant Creek. Let's see if we can turn on the water feature layer on the map. And there we go. You'll cross Bryant Creek, you'll go up a hill, and then you'll be at the west side, kind of at the main entrance of the Panther Hollow project. Alternately, you could go a couple miles further on Highway 60 to Mansfield, take that exit, and then take Highway B back to the west, take Highway B to the south, cross Bryant Creek there, go west on County Road 520, go north on County Road 507 to get to the same spot, that main entrance at the Panther Hollow project. And you can go either way. The north route really has only recently been usable because there was a small section of County Road right in here between Bryant Creek and the entrance to Panther Hollow that really hadn't been maintained in decades because it just wasn't used. The people that lived out here used this southern road because it was just more convenient, and that was their traffic pattern. So this section had grown up in trees and bushes and stuff, but recently the county kind of opened that up. They put a small concrete bridge over Bryant Creek, where before you were just driving across the gravel, which is fine, but when they did that bridge recently, that was very convenient as well. So we tend to come in from the north way, but you certainly can come in on what we call the south route as well. I mean, that's fine too. Either way, you do want a truck or an SUV with four-wheel drive, because you're talking gravel county roads and then the gravel easement road. Even though the county roads are county roads, both counties that you'd be dealing with, which is Wright County and Douglas County, depending on which way you come in, they have miles and miles and miles of gravel roads. So if there's been a bad storm or whatnot and there's an issue, they might not be able to get to it right away. So having a four-wheel drive truck or SUV is very helpful there. Why don't we switch to we're using the MapRight interactive map. You'll see a very similar map to this on the listing page for the property, and you can do most of the stuff we're doing as far as zooming in and zooming out and changing the base layers, and gives you a chance to really see the property in the area at different times of the year, because a lot of the base maps are taken not by design, but they're taken from different seasons. So this would be more of a probably late summer map, whereas if in this case we switch to a Google map, that would be a wintertime map, and vice versa. So really fun to play with. This is the master map, and we've got some of the layers turned off because we were doing the route to Panther Hollow. Let me see if we can't turn those back on. I'm not sure we can. Okay, let's do, there we go, great. Okay, that's pretty much what we wanted. And the text is a little squished right now. It'll look better when we get into it here in a second. So over here, the purple one being the north route, the green one being the south route, but either way you're on Panther Hollow Road. You go east into the main entrance into Panther Hollow, and then kind of continue easterly to the property. There also is a kind of a southern entrance. It's this little section of unnamed road right here that goes off the county road and then goes north into Panther Hollow. But either way, you'll be going easterly on the easement road. You'll come down kind of a long, gentle hill, and you'll enter the meadow area, so that's how you'll know you're very close to the property. Whoops. And I will mention all the base maps on MapRight are pulling from aerials that they're only updated every 3 or 4 or 5 years, sometimes more. In this case, this aerial is several years old, as is the Google aerial. So not only do they not show the easement road properly, but they show, like if we go, you can see those little round areas. So those are where the farmer would have been feeding the cattle with big round bales. And the Google map is obviously from a different year, because the round areas are in a different part. But if you zoom way in, you can see the actual bales, and then by the time the cows or the llamas or whatever they have out there, by the time the horses get it all torn apart and eat it, it's left kind of a round area where the hay has been stepped on and all that stuff. So that's what those round circles are. If you look at the drone videos, there are no round circles. That was just what it looked like at the time when these maps were created or whatnot, when the base map was created. And as we mentioned, it also, none of these quite yet show the easement road properly. The yellow line is where the easement road is. So it is a gravel easement road. It goes easterly through this meadow and then goes on down into the timber, and there's like a cul-de-sac turnaround. So it's a dead-end road. There's essentially no traffic on the road, since it does end out there. And why don't we zoom in and where to begin? There's so much to see on this. I don't know if we'll go into a ton of detail on the house itself, because we've got, I think, other videos where we talk about that quite a bit. So we really want to focus on the property on the 20 acres. Large tract, as we mentioned, beautiful. It's going to be partially open with meadow areas and partially wooded. We saw some gorgeous timber out here. If you watch some of the ground videos and probably the drone videos, we're kind of fixated on all the black walnut trees on this property. We're familiar with black walnuts. Not only are they valuable trees, but they're really cool. When they drop their walnuts every year, people will come and pick those up and sell them. They'll have walnut buying stations. I mean, black walnut trees are just great, and we saw so many mature black walnut trees just on the small portion of the property where we were, which was up by the home and the buildings. It was really pretty cool. Got 2 ponds on this property. This pond over here toward the east is a well-made existing pond. It's been there who knows how many years. This pond to the west, we kind of had to sketch it in on this map because it's not going to show up on the aerials. It's only a couple years old. Basically, when the easement road was being widened and created and gravelled and everything out here, a year or two ago, the person who was running the dozer, I guess, took a lunch break and was just walking and having his lunch kind of behind the home and buildings, and he spied this area, and he said, that would be a really nice place to put a pond. He had the equipment out there, had the big dozer, had all, the excavator and stuff, and we told him, yeah, go ahead and do it. So he did, and it looks great, and it's already holding water pretty nicely. So we're excited about that as well. There is a creek that crosses over the property here, a little bit south of the center. It comes in from the west, goes easterly, keeps on going, and after a mile or two, connects with Bryant Creek. The creek had been running essentially every time that we were at the property. If we walked down to it or saw it on the drone video, it was running. When we did the summertime drone video, it was not running. So when you look at the drone video, you might see that, although I think we were going to splice in a little 2 or 3 minute video within the other drone video showing when the creek was running. But anyway, I mean, it's cool. It's a very pretty creek. It's got a gravel bottom in part. It's got a large rock bottom, and then it just goes easterly. You've got power obviously on the property running up to the farmhouse. You've got the kind of, I guess, larger power line easement that's running northeasterly over these properties. So if you're a farmer, that's a nice place to graze the horses or the cattle. If you're a hunter, obviously you know that the value of a nice wide shooting lane like that. Yeah, if you're a hunter, you know all about hunting the power line easements. It's just a really convenient way to be able to get out and really see the deer or the turkey or whatnot as they cross over. We could go to a topo map. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I guess we will. We'll go to a topo, then we'll zoom in toward the home and the buildings. But quickly here, we'll do a topo. Okay, so there's a topo. These can certainly be confusing, especially if you're not familiar with topo maps or with the property itself. We're familiar with both, so hopefully we can explain this a little bit. The topo maps try to show the roads, and they're just using aerial videos or old topo maps. So this one shows part of the road correctly, the gray line, but then where it shows it bumping into the property, that is incorrect. That may have been a road or trail at some point years ago. It is now not. So this yellow line does correctly show the surveyed easement road, which really runs basically through the middle of the meadow area. So it gives you a lot of space, gives you some privacy between the road and the buildings. So yeah, the gray line is not anything. It may have been years ago when this map was created, but what the topo is showing us is the property is the lowest. We'll start with that. It's the lowest where the creek crosses over it, which is just a little bit south of center. As you go southerly from there, it rises up, and you've got what appears to be a level area here toward the west side. Going back to the creek bed, as you go northerly, it rises up, and once you get up toward the home and the buildings and the large yard, you've got a large level area there as well. So if we come at this differently, as you're coming from the easement road, you drive onto the property, you got your home and buildings all essentially on a large level area. As you start to walk toward the ponds, sloping down, actually levels out again, and then sloping down as you get to the creek bed. So really nothing on this property that we would call steep. And you can see the drone videos to get a better look at that, to kind of see it from the air. Appears to be a very, very usable property. If we zoom out just a little bit, I mean, this is the Ozarks, so that there is a lot of steepness in the Ozarks. There is a lot of hill and holler action. Just going north from here, if you look at Bryant Creek, see how close those lines are. That's indicating essentially a bluff. And ups and downs are par for the course here in the Ozarks. So it's pretty cool to have a property this size that appears to be, very, very usable. You've got obviously the large level area toward the north where the home and the buildings are. You've got what appears to be a fairly gradual slope down to the creek and back up, and then you've got a level area, or what appears to be a level area, looking at the topo map, toward the west side of the property as well. Okay. So now we'll zoom in. Let's zoom in toward the north side. And we'll see if we can't get a look at the actual house and main yard here. And we'll probably try some different base maps. This one looks pretty good, but it's really not quite as clear as we would like. You can just faintly see the house. So let's try a Google map, Google base map. Those are usually decent. Okay, so that's super clear. We know this Google base map is several years old at a minimum, because this was obviously a very active farm when this Google aerial was taken. We have actual bales out here, but it's clear, and that's good, because that's what we're looking for. So this shows the house right here. Here's the actual house. It's kind of I guess you'd say an L shape. You've got what we would call the original or older portion of the house here. You can actually see the two little dormers. Then you've got a connection to what we would call the newer part of the house, which apparently was built in about 1999, according to the date and the concrete that we saw on the step out front here. And that's going to be a couple bedrooms, nice living room and dining area, bathroom. The kitchen for the home is over here, with a small utility room and bathroom off of the kitchen. And then in the older part of the home, you've got a kind of a living area, maybe a den type area, and then another bedroom type area. And then we mentioned those two little dormers. There is a very small upstairs level, pretty typical of a classic farmhouse. You know, you can stand in the middle, but then slopes down on each side. But it does have some natural light up there with the two dormers, and then it's got a upper level window on the side here. The entire house actually has pretty good natural light. I mean, a lot of the farmhouses we've been in, that's something that is lacking, but on this one there are quite a few windows, so it's a nice setup. See if we can zoom in even more here. You can actually see the rooftop air unit, which was working when we were out there. I mean, it was keeping that section of the house nice and cool. It's only vented to the newer portion of the house and the kitchen, but it seems to do a good job with that. This little building you see, we thought maybe it's old. It was only left standing probably the last few decades of its life, just because it's cool and it kind of looks neat, but it may or may not have any actual value other than potentially historic value. But it might have been an old shed. It might have been an old, mother-in-law quarter. Who really knows? But it's an old structure. Across the kind of the driveway, you have another older structure, which we would call an old granary, and it's going to be just maybe usable for storage. It's more usable than this little structure, but it's still in pretty rough shape. But then we get to the much more usable buildings. This deal right here is an enclosed shop. It's about 30 by 50. It's got an entry door here. It's got two sliders, large sliding doors to give you access to it. It's got really full power inside. It's got a big breaker box in there. It's got lights. It's got plug-ins. There's already at least one plug-in for a welder. I mean, it's good to go as a shop. It's got a dirt floor. I think there's a small concrete slab in there. It's got a dirt floor, but I mean, it's very, very usable. And then over here, this looks like two separate buildings, and it basically is, but they were built. This one was probably built first, and then this second one was built later when they needed more space. And it's we call it a hay shed or a machine shed. So when you look in it, the smaller portion is covered, I guess. It's got walls on three sides, the back here, and then the two sides, and then it's open on this side, and then that's where they attach this other shed, which is just a slanted roof, and then the add-on has a cupboard, a metal back wall here, and then it's open on the other three sides. And so what it gives you is a structure that is basically all contiguous, but it's completely walled on this west side, on the north side and then a portion of the east side. But all the other part of it is sort of run together. And that one, when we walked it off, was about 40 by 60 total. So I mean, you've got a lot of usable buildings here. Yeah, just really nice setup for that. Actually, some of these trailers and stuff that you can see even in this old photo are still out there. We saw those. In fact, this old feeder, the old cattle feeder is there. I believe it's tipped over, but it's there. These little trailers appear to be there. Some of this hay equipment is there. I'm not sure. This looks like maybe a fertilizer cart, not sure. But this is some type of rake that was there. This is some type of baler that was there. Some of these other feeders. And then this sorting corral appears to be, overgrown, but is fairly intact out there. Obviously, we mentioned this does not show the new pond. The other pond, which we call the big pond, even though if the new pond, really fills up the way it's designed, it will probably be the same size as the big pond. But this pond, the existing pond, has a big, well-constructed dam on the south side or west side here. We don't know how deep it is. It might be deep enough to keep fish, or you might have to, get in there and clean it out with a little excavator and scoop it. It probably hasn't been cleaned for decades. But yeah, this like we mentioned, this really does not show the actual easement road. It now follows this yellow line quite well. You've got this doesn't quite show the driveway well. When we drove out there, the properties have been surveyed, so this has been surveyed with the corners marked. You'll see a stake off the road, and technically the existing kind of driveway went just outside the stake and then onto the property, but literally all you have to do is drive another 10 feet and then pull onto the driveway to hook up with the existing road. So no issues there at all. As far as the rest of the property, we know it's got quite a bit of mature timber, and you'll see that in the drone video as well. Just all over the place. Sloping down toward the creek bed. Got a lot of grassy areas, a lot of meadow type areas. Here's one over here adjacent to the creek bed. And then we really have not explored this west side at all, other than with the drone. So we don't know what kind of cool surprises you might have there. This looks like pretty much all hardwood. So certainly could be more walnut trees. In fact, from the drone video, it looked like there were some very big walnut trees over here, as well as oak and hickory and whatnot. Okay. We might just play around with these base maps a little bit to see what else we can see. So that's obviously a winter time. And this is clearly several years old as well. You can see what looks like some rows of round bales in the front yard of the house. That's kind of cool. So, I mean, that's one reason why MapRed is fun, is because the base maps that it pulls from not only show the properties at different times of the year, just depending on when they were taken, but they might show it several years ago, so you can kind of see what was going on the property 5 or even 10 years ago. Google Maps, like we use, those are generally the most clear. Infrared maps can be interesting because they make the grassy areas or the open areas really jump out. I mean, you can tell at a glance what is open versus what is heavily wooded. You'll notice the yard around the house and the buildings, big timber. I mean, nice buffer zone of timber, and that is common on all good kind of farms or family farms that we've seen. They tended to have big timber around the house for a lot of reasons. One, that it was pretty. Another one, provided shade. And another one, that it provided privacy. And so that is definitely the case on this one. Is you've got some massive trees around the house. This looks like actually more of maybe an early spring, because we don't have the leaves on these walnut trees yet. Although walnut trees, I believe they're about the last to leaf out. Let's see if we can find I don't know what that is. That looks like something you'd see in on CNN in a foreign country. Google Map. Well, really the drone videos on the listing page are going to be the best source of of seeing the property from the air, because they are quite recent. These maps, none of these maps will show that the roof on the house was replaced about a year ago, roughly. I mean, we would call it brand new. It maybe has been a year, but it's got good quality architectural shingles on it. There is a well house separate, detached from the main house. There's a well house right in here that's got new shingles on it as well. It looks really good. As we mentioned, it's an older farmhouse. In fact, we'd heard from someone that the original structure was log cabin. And I think we mentioned this in another video, but that's something that just kind of we've heard a few times, because people think it's cool and, oh, there might be an original log cabin, in those walls. I'm trying to get to a different one where we can zoom in a little better. Well, that's just how that is. Okay. We'll go back to the Google map. It's still the most clear. But as we were kind of walking around and the guys did some painting and different stuff in there, this has a large front porch over the entire front of kind of the older section, and that not only were the shingles bad on that, but the porch decking, the roof decking, I should say, was all really bad. So we had the guys who were doing the roof kind of tear off and redo that completely. So I think they raised the pitch of the roof a little bit, and when they did that, they uncovered an area behind the vinyl siding that was an actual log cabin wall. And you'll see that when you go there. If you look at the front of the older part, you can't see it when you look at it, but when you walk up to the porch and look up, you can see the exposed section, and you can actually see the corner of a log cabin. So that it's pretty fair to say that the original structure, which is not even this entire section with the 2 dormers, it's more like half of it with the 1 dormer, was a log cabin. And it was added onto a little bit when a family grew or when needs changed, and then added onto a little more. And then in late 90s, they added on this larger section and kind of modernized certainly that portion with the central air and that kind of stuff. But when they did that, it was kind of smart, because there's a single door entryway, I should say, leading from the newer section into the older section. It comes through the kitchen, and they have designed it so there's a wooden door that slides shut, and essentially kind of differentiates the newer portion from the older portion. So I assume, whether it's summer or wintertime, they could simply slide that door shut. They have everything they need in the newer section, including the bathrooms and the kitchen and 2 bedrooms and living room and dining room, all in the newer section, and they would not have to cool or heat this older section if they didn't want to, if they slid that door shut. There's no bathroom or anything in the older section, so there's no they would have had no need to keep that heated in the wintertime if they didn't want to. And same with the summertime. The main bedrooms really are in this newer part. So I'm sure they did use that, but they had the option of sliding that kind of door between the 2 sections closed if they only wanted to heat or cool or do their thing in this newer section. So it's kind of cool to see how that was done. But yeah, I mean, absolutely unique property. We are in love with this tract. We've been excited to do these videos and kind of get it out there so everybody could check it over. Hopefully this video was helpful. There's just a whole lot going on with the property like this, and it's certainly tough to really cover it properly in a video, but we were excited to get it out there. And yeah, if you have any questions, let us know. It's tract 10 at Panther Hollow, 20.41 acres. It is surveyed with the corners marked. Give us a shout. We would love to talk to you about this if it's still available. If it's not, then we apologize. Things do tend to sell quickly, and the special properties sell even more quickly than the I don't want to say the less special properties, but obviously this is a top shelf property, and we rarely, if ever, have something that has a structure, let alone a home with buildings and everything going for it that this one does. So We're excited about it. We hope you are too. If you have any questions, just let us know.